Okay, if we can just make a start. Hi, Chris.
Oh, when you were sitting there. You're confusing me.
I was trying to be able to bribe people on blackmail and he wasn't, didn't shut them up. Excellent, lovely, lovely. Well, welcome everybody to the final session of the conference. My name is John Stewart and I chair the campaign against climate change. It has been an excellent conference and this final session is going to be a question time session, a bit like you see David Dimbleby doing on the television. I think there's two differences. One, I'm no David Dimbleby, but secondly, we've got a panel that David Dimbleby would be jealous about. So let me introduce this starring panel that we've got. The first star is Jonathan Stevenson, and Jonathan is from Fuel Poverty Action. Beside him, I'm at the age now when I've got two pairs of glasses. I'm going to have to change my glasses to read all these things out. So, but don't talk amongst yourselves, otherwise you'll never stop. And just beside me here is Will Duckworth, who is the Deputy Leader of the Green Party. Welcome, Will. On my other side is somebody who in the last session you'll have met already, and many of you will know, is Joan Walley, MP, and Joan is the well-known chair of the House of Commons Environment Audit Committee. Welcome. Beside Joan, we have got Martin Mayer, who's on the National Executive of Unite. Welcome, Martin. Oh, you've brought your fans. The challenge for the rest of you is, can you win that fan over by the end of the meeting? Then we've got Suzanne Jeffery, who chaired this morning's session, and Suzanne, in addition to being the Vice Chair of the Campaign Against Climate Change, chairs the Trade Union Group. And finally, but certainly not least, Chris, we've got Chris Baugh, who many of you know as the Assistant General Secretary of PCS. Now, a number of you have been very busy in sending me questions, and we've got about 20 questions in all, so we'll be here until this time tomorrow, but don't worry, we're only going to take a few of them. What we'll do is we'll take a few questions. If your question's not taken, I'm afraid we can't take them all, so I'll take one or two questions, see how time gets on, because I want to leave a few minutes at the end just for kind of notices and things that people usually want to make. And we will definitely finish at 5 o'clock, because I know you've all got that short-haul flight to catch. Okay. No, I wasn't being serious, no. Okay, the first question was put in by Julie Brown, who had to leave a little bit early because her flight left a few minutes ago. And she didn't want to be seen with her in her air hostess uniform. But her question is this. She said, in recent speeches, Owen Jones has said that people know about problems but need hope. How would you give people hope on climate change? Will Duckworth. You may just want to grab that microphone there. Yeah.
Thanks, I probably don't need it. Yes, we do need hope, and this is hope here. We are the hope for the future. The PAA meetings I've been to, with Owen Jones, some of them, is the embryonic hope. We've got hope. through the People's Assembly, through groups like this, through the Coalition of Resistance. We are the hope, and we've just got to build on it and show people that there is an alternative, and we are it.
Okay, thanks for that. Martin?
Well, in Unite... sorry, is that on?
I don't think so. Try again.
Yeah. Well, is that on?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in Unite, we are very clear that there is an answer to austerity. Working people are suffering appallingly under this government's policies. But the route out of austerity is to use the public sector as the motor for recovery. But we can't do that in the traditional way. And this is where I think the trade unions really are linking up with the environmental movement, because we're saying put that money into green jobs, into sustainable development. Now, we know from our experience of the Labour government in 1945, after the Second World War, that following a budget deficit from the war, much bigger in real terms than today, deficits and borrowing is not really the issue. If you've got the will, you can really put the economy back on track. And one of the major things that government did was build 1 million council homes. Well, I think we've got the same housing crisis we've got today. We've got the same crisis today as we had then. And I think a similar programme is exactly what we need now. But those council houses we build, they should be zero emission housing. We also should be looking at green jobs in other areas, renewable energy, and of course insulation for homes and buildings. But there's also the industry I work in, public transport. I'm a bus driver in Sheffield myself. And I know that for every £1 billion we put into public transport infrastructure, we generate 4 billion in the economy elsewhere. These are green jobs. These give hope. I think there is a message of hope, and it's a message after austerity is, as I say, green jobs, investment in the future, putting people back to work, and it's using the public sector as the motor for that recovery, and rejecting the failed neoliberal policies of the past.
Martin, thank you. Now, Jonathan. Oh, yeah. The bands are growing, Martin. The bands are growing. Now, Jonathan, you're even younger than the rest of us on the panel. So, how would you give hope to your generation?
That's quite a big deal. I would try not to. I would try and, I would sort of rephrase it. I think the hope that I see at the moment is that I think the environmental movement is changing. And I think in a good way. I think we've started to move away from thinking about emissions only and started to move towards thinking about climate within the context of all issues, within the context of broader politics of social justice. And as a result of doing that, we're building a bigger movement. Climate is not a group of people that only think about climate as much as it used to be 10 years ago. It's starting to be an issue for everyone. And that's partly borne out by our experience in Fuel Poverty Action. We started the group up as a group of climate activists who wanted to show that the environmental movement wasn't detached from social issues. Every time you read a story about energy bills or fuel poverty in the newspaper, the picture is of a pensioner sitting by a fire looking like a victim. And I think that's how people understood the issue. But through getting involved in this issue, we've started working with pensioners associations around London who are organising on social issues themselves, but are now working with us on fuel poverty and are talking about climate change in a way that they weren't before. And I think that's where I see hope, is in building new alliances, in getting the environmental movement out of its silo and showing that it's part of the struggle for the long term, not just a single issue.
Thanks very much. Joan?
Well, how to have hope is something which has dogged me both on the environment issues and also in relation to Port Vale Football Club, which I had to help come out of administration twice.
Which is the more challenging, Joan?
Both. But if I can say that last season Port Vale got promoted from League 2 to League Division 1, the hope that there was, I'm glad there's another Port Vale fan there, but the hope that there is when, if you like, the underdog can actually come and really achieve the success that everyone is looking for, gives me hope on this environmental agenda as well. Look, I think it's a question of, I came here to get some hope from all of you, from the sort of fellowship and comradeship of us all being here together, and the sense that a problem shared is a problem halved. And I just feel that there is just so much that needs to be done by way of collaboration, by way of networking, by way of making this agenda mainstream rather than something that's not flagged up anywhere, and where we can relate it in that cross-cutting way to every single aspect of our lives at work, at home, and in terms of what's going on internationally as well. And I take hope from the fact that although the United Nations COP talks might have not got us quickly to where we wanted them to be as yet, there is something like 31 countries already which have in their own countries, national parliaments, passed climate change legislation. And even though it might be the case that everything's not where it needs to be and how it needs to be, I just feel that there is a lot going on the ground where people know in their heart of hearts that the right thing is being done and that change is the, if you like, at the top of the agenda, and that gives hope. And I think it's just going to grow and grow. So that's really where I get my hope from, about what is being done by local people, by national governments, even if there isn't that international agreement that should be there by this stage.
Thanks, Joan. Chris?
Well, I think, hope comes about when people start to believe that, you can change something. And I think that, the old proverb about action always speaking louder than words. So on that basis, I think one tangible way of generating hope in the capacity of working people across Britain to deliver genuine change would be for the trade union movement, preferably the TUC, but if not, all those unions that are committed to fighting austerity and recognise the attacks upon them are not attacks confined to their own sector, to call a day of protest, a day of action, general strike, whatever you want to call it, but for the trade union movement to lead from the front and to call for action on that basis, but to reach out and to build that new alliance that's been referred to, and to reach out to all the bedroom tax protesters, environmental activists, UK on COP, the disability activists. So on the day that we take a day of protest and strike action, that we organise in every major town, square and city square, public occupations that demonstrate our collective power around the theme of anti-austerity, defending the National Health Service and fighting for proper investment in climate jobs. And I think that, in organising and calling for that and building an alliance around action on that basis, would do more to generate hope than I think anything I've seen since this lot cobbled together the coalition.
Thank you, Chris. Suzanne?
Yeah, I'm a teacher and I teach school children, and very genuinely I do get hope from them, literally every, not always hope. Don't get me wrong.
I was going to say, what school's this, Suzanne?
Yeah.
Don't close it.
Yeah. Sometimes hope. No, I mean, really, I teach history, and I was recently teaching the Industrial Revolution, as you do if you're a history teacher, and was talking about long-term and short-term consequences of the Industrial Revolution, and all these hands went up to talk about climate change being one of the long-term consequences of the Industrial Revolution. And I'm like, no, I want to talk about the movement from the countryside into the cities. And the kids kept insisting that what they needed to talk about were the long-term consequences of climate change. If I mentioned earlier today, we did that climate jobs caravan last year, and if you look at the comments that people made as they participated in the climate jobs caravan, you get some hope, because people do care about what is happening to their world and they want to do something about it. But one of the things I think we genuinely do have a problem with in terms of the climate movement, of giving people hope, is I think that we probably not time to go into it here, how and why and whatever, but I do think that since Copenhagen and the appalling outcome of Copenhagen, I think people have lost hope and have lost confidence and have moved away from coming together to continue to demonstrate how deep the concern is about this issue. And I think we've got to overcome that, and we've got to overcome that quite quickly, because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't see groups of people come together, then it's easy to present it as people don't care about the issue. Certainly in the campaign against climate change, we're talking to other groups about coming together in late spring of next year for an event, a big event, but it's got to be about numbers this time. We've got to come back together so it is absolutely clear that this is a major issue and lots and lots and lots of people care about it. And I think that will start to give people hope again.
Thanks, Suzanne. Okay, well, the next question came from Ken Montague, and it was this, and it moved us on quite nicely from this conference, I think. How do you see us building a movement that can significantly raise the argument for climate jobs on the national agenda, or perhaps at the national level? So it's building this movement. We've heard the discussion today, we've heard the arguments. How do we build on that? Chris, do you want to go first?